Hi, friends. Welcome to Lotus in the Light. My name's Jennifer. Thank you for joining me. I am so excited to share this morning because I've just had a really cool morning and I can't wait to tell you. It's all tied to the message that Spirit wants me to bring today, wants to channel through me. So I just grabbed a stone. So let's just open up our connection really quickly by taking a deep breath. Spirit, we're setting the intention that we are going to be an open channel for you to flow out of, for you to connect the three of us, whoever's watching this video in this time, or at whatever time, myself and and you as the conduit and connector for all of us, that the words that I would speak, you would also be speaking into their hearts, and this would only serve as a confirmation to them of what they already knew. Thank you for your divine love and light. Protect the space and time so that only messages of pure love would come through. Amen. Okay, listen to this. I just love how spirit works. Okay. Um, So yesterday, and today's Sunday. So yesterday on Saturday, I felt a bit of a nudge, or a divine inspiration, if you will, to do a video about like how to kind of get our heart and mind in the right space in the morning when we start our day, and how to just be mindful about what headspace we get into as we roll out of bed. Um, Um, because what you'll find is that so when you wake up in the morning, you are completely level set on a on your highest frequency, whatever your highest frequency is. You wake up there, right? Because you've been not been in your conscious mind. You've been in your subconscious mind, who's connected to spirit, and so you are refreshed and renewed in that wiser, more loving space, okay, more unconditionally loving space, right? Your body's been resting in the night. Your soul has probably been astral traveling and meeting with your guides and doing things like that in the night. And you may not remember those things, but they're probably happening. Um, so, but what happens is we like wake up and it's like sometimes almost instantly or within seconds, we're in here and we're thinking and our mind's already going about the day, and sometimes the stress already kicks in, and so on and so forth. And so yesterday I felt inspired that we need to talk about how to intentionally set ourselves up for the best day we can have, for the day that we how for a day where we are as connected as we have ever been to spirit all throughout the day, as connected to divine love and guidance as we can possibly be. And so that's what I felt inspired to talk about yesterday. But yesterday was a really busy day for me and I did not have time to record. And this is the beauty of it. So a lot of times in life we beat ourselves up over like shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? And this has happened to me several times where I have felt divinely inspired to record. I know when I feel that divine inspiration and excited about it, go do it right then, right? I know that that's spirit saying, like, now's the time, you're in the right space, your heart's in the right space, your head's in the right space to channel me, meaning spirit, meaning God, meaning my soul, and bring forth the words that spirit knows people need to hear. Okay. And not just my own intellectual thoughts and ego, right? But sometimes life does not permit me to stop in the middle of what I'm doing. So I think that's probably a limiting belief that I have, right? And I've been trying to be more mindful of that. So, like, if I get inspired in the middle of the workday, there have been many times when I just didn't do it because I'm in the middle of my workday. And sometimes that needs to be the case because maybe I have an important meeting or, things like that that I can't just skip out on, right? But as I start to examine what really is the truth about that, um, what I'm realizing is that maybe there are times when I can pause. I don't think I can because I have this limiting belief that I'm on the clock. But like, I don't have any meetings. I have some space in my day. I have flexibility with my hours. I can kind of start and end whenever I want. So if I want to take an extra 30 minutes to do a video, I can tack 30 minutes onto the end of my day if my calendar allows for it. There's not no one telling me that I can't do that. So a lot of that is limiting beliefs that I'm trying to work through. But the reason I say this is that sometimes when I don't record, when I feel the inspiration, and I'll even jot it in my notes of like, hey, maybe talk about this later, and I'll come back to it and read it and be like, I just don't feel inspired about it anymore. So that can often feel like a missed opportunity, and perhaps it is, right? Because if I'm really listening to my spirit, that's the opportunity, right? But I've missed it, darn. And we have a tendency to beat ourselves up when we think we've missed opportunities or taken a wrong path or whatever. We're so judgmental and harsh to ourselves. But here's the thing. Spirit doesn't just give us one offering, right? I think I said before, I did a message recently. What was it on? I think it was on sin. And I was like, yeah, because I was like, I have been waiting almost since the beginning of me starting these videos. I have wanted to talk about sin. And I've been doing these videos, I think, for like 6, 8 weeks now. Um, and but I never felt inspired to do it. So I wasn't going to just do it of my own accord. And I thought, so it's really about waiting for that spiritual pull to do it. And when you think you've missed an opportunity, it's like you think it's not going to come back around again. That's not the way spirit works. Um, so I know that if I miss an off ramp, Spirit's going to give me another off ramp, right, to take that opportunity. And so that's exactly what happened. And not only that, but here's what I would say is that yesterday, even though I felt the inkling of the inspiration, I didn't feel the full excitement and passion about it because it was a Saturday. There was things I was doing that I could have said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go record. But I didn't because even though the idea came to me that I think this is what I need to talk about, the like full on inspiration and passion about it didn't come to me. And so I'm glad. And I know why now because Spirit wanted me to talk about it today. And the reason is I don't often wake up anymore with so that I used to wake up every single day of my life. It's the way my brain worked. Immediately wake up and my brain is going, usually about work stuff. Okay. Whereas some people could get up and have their first cup of coffee and sit around for 30 minutes or an hour, like my husband, like not focused on anything and not, just kind of being, which is a beautiful thing. I could never operate like that in the past. And I know that whoever's listening to this message is for you because you are the same way. So I would wake up and immediately my brain is going on thinking about all the things that I have to do. So for you, it might not be work. It might be getting your kids ready or, whatever, getting, maybe home management type things, or maybe it, has to do with taking care of somebody who's ill and all the things you've got to do for them or, whatever. Um, but for me, like my brain would be immediately on to work things. And so I haven't had that in a while because I've just removed those stressors out of they're not part of my narrative anymore. They're not part of my life. The stress is not part of my life in this last year since I've really made that kind of chiropractic adjustment to being more aligned to my soul and to spirit. Okay. I don't worry about those things like I used to. And I'm able to get up and spend time in meditation and or journaling or praying or doing these recordings or, all those things, yoga, before I go to work. And then when I sit down at my desk, I say, okay, Spirit, ready to co-create. Let's do it. Okay. That's how my days usually work now, not this morning. So I have an event at work coming up that um, it's usually an annual event that we've decided as a team, my boss really wanted to redesign how this event functioned. It used to be like 2 days of my team and another team like presenting their plans for the next year to the rest of the organization. It was very like everybody just kind of sitting and watching for 2 days without any engagement. And we're really trying to change the structure of this event to be more of a workshop, more of like ideation, to figure out some new and innovative ways of thinking about our business. Okay. So, but we're doing it virtually because of, budget constraints. So we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we make this engaging virtually? How do we make it inspiring so that we get some really cool outcomes? Okay. So I basically have been leading this project. I'm not creating all the content. Like there's a team of us that are working together to like execute it, to pull it off, right? But I'm just kind of overseeing everything and driving everything. And I'm pretty aligned to my boss about the vision of what we want it to be, which is not tactical and productive, but creative, like closing down a little bit of the left brain, turning on the right brain, giving permission to people to not come up with a certain number of outcomes and but really just creative juices flowing kind of a space. My boss gets that. The other people on the team that's like building this out still struggle with that, and they still have a tendency to think strategically. And so I feel a little bit of that pull. Anyway, I woke up this morning and I just didn't recognize it until this morning. I've been waking up in the morning with this meeting on my mind a little bit. And until today, I've been able to like put it aside, do my practices, my yoga, my meditation, right? But today I couldn't. It was like an overwhelming, intrusive thought in my meditation time. And so I had to stop my meditation. And sometimes you have to say, you're supposed to like let those thoughts just float by, right? Not give them too much of your attention because then you'll go down the rabbit hole with them because you give them momentum, but also not trying to ignore them and stuff them down because they'll keep creeping back in stronger and stronger. So I knew I was like, okay, I have to deal with this before I can meditate because I couldn't just let it pass by like a cloud because it was just putting me into a tailspin. And what was happening was I had to stop and say, what are you feeling? Not thinking. What are you feeling about this that's preventing you from letting this thought pass? There's some feeling of misalignment. I could feel the stress. The fact that I couldn't let it go to couldn't let it pass so that I could meditate was creating stress in me even. So like I could feel the stress in there, like, why can't I let this go long enough to even meditate, right? So what I realized is that old patterns of, as we were getting closer to this event, so this week is not the event, it's next week. This week is the event where we're really shoring up and tweaking and finalizing the content that we're sharing and nailing down like how our breakout sessions and our ideation sessions are going to go. And then next week is the event. And so each day as we're getting closer and closer, what was happening is the stress was starting to bubble up. The stress, the old pattern of thinking about success. Am I going to be successful? I'm the one that's overseeing this event. If it's a failure, it's going to be a reflection of me. And like, I can see other people like in their ideas of um, tactical ideas and, kind of the old ways of doing things starting to creep back in. And I know deep down inside that the key to success for this event is in our creativity, not our left-brained, logical minded, checking the box, like come up with 5 things that we do this year, that next year. It's not there. The sweet spot, the how did Steve Jobs come up with the cell phone uh, idea that, or, how did he come up with the idea that people needed cameras or even would want cameras on their cell phone or music on their cell phone? You can't market research that, right? Nobody knew that they wanted that before it was a possibility, right? So it took some kind of divine inspiration for him to see that there was a big opportunity here that was right under his nose that he could execute, but never would have thought of if he would have just stayed in the box of like what they had been doing to that point, and what the cell phone category looked like to that point, and what consumers wanted to that point. If he would have stayed there, he never would have figured it out. That's what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to draw out of this group is like those out of the box ideas. So, but I can hear and feel the group starting to like their momentum is great, right? Their momentum is strong, and they're starting to pull me towards what towards that tactical mindset. Okay. But I know, because of my connection to spirit, I know that that's not where the results that we want are. I know that success lives in this other space, and I'm confident about it. And so like there's this struggle of like, I feel them pulling me. Am I gonna cave? Like how do I what do I do? How do I get them on board? And so anyway, that stress was starting to emerge for me this morning. And when I stopped meditating and I started asking the questions, how do you feel? I feel like I'm at risk for failure. I feel like I'm at risk for failure. Why? Is it because of my idea? It actually isn't. I am rooted solidly in the knowing of what will make this a success. How do I know? I don't know. It's just a spirit thing. I just know. I am feeling the stress of failure because the other people are pulling me towards something that feels out of alignment with my soul, out of alignment with my knowing, and they're pulling me out of alignment with what I know will be success into what I know will be a failure. And I say failure, it won't be a failure in the sense of like, if we set our intention to come out with a bunch of tactical things, we will be successful in coming out with a bunch of tactical things. That's not the goal. That would be a failure to me. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, what do I believe about this? What do I know? And here's what's beautiful. And the reason why I couldn't record yesterday is because yesterday afternoon I went to take my niece's dog for a walk. On that walk, I had my headphones in and I was listening to an Abraham Hicks video. And this woman was asking about how she could like stay in her vibrational frequency even against the pool of, or even against naysayers. Like when she knows that she's in alignment with herself, with spirit, and therefore she knows she'll be successful. Here's how I know. When I am aligned with spirit, there's no way that anyone that's not aligned with spirit is going to be more successful than me. It's literally not possible. Same for you. Okay. Trust that intuition and that knowing. If spirit gives you that knowing, trust it every time. Okay. So, and that's what she was saying. She's like, how do I combat this pull in a different direction by other people, by naysayers? And she said, they make me doubt myself. And Abraham said, well, give me an example. And she said, well, my boss, she said, I lead a sales team, and I have these ideas that I just know are going to work. And then my boss will say, well, why didn't you do this? Or why did you do this, but you didn't do this or whatever? And she's like, and it makes me question myself, and it makes me question what I know. And that's when Abraham said, the reason that doesn't feel good is because they're pulling you. Their momentum is great, and their momentum is pulling you from what you know will be an outcome of success towards misalignment and failure. They're like already getting in your head. They're creating the doubt that you can succeed, which is putting your attention to failure, which means if you pull that way, you will end up failing because your attention and focus is on failure. And I just loved that example came up, because then this morning, wasn't thinking about it at the time because my boss is in alignment with me. So her example didn't completely resonate at that time. But then this morning when I was like, why am I feeling stressed? I know this is the right thing to do. I know we're going in the right way. And then I realized, because the momentum of the rest of the group that wants to go back into their comfortable place of tactical strategy, right? That's comfortable to them. That's what they're used to doing. And their pool is strong. That momentum is strong. I have to be stronger. And I can be because I am like a tree trunk rooted in a solid foundation. And here's what's beautiful about this is like, I'm going to read to you like what I journaled. So where did I put it? I said, where did I start it? Okay. I can't allow their momentum to draw me out of alignment with the outcome that I know is possible. I have to figure out a way to attract them towards my frequency. Now, this is what I wrote. Um, but as I sit here today, I know that that's not my job. See, in my statement of that, how do I pull them into my frequency? How do I help them see and know and understand? That's our human nature is to try to control and manipulate other people. And it makes sense. Like, this life is all about manipulating energy, right? Manipulating energy for our good. And other people are just energy. So I get that, but it's a misaligned idea to try to manipulate other people's free will. Okay. And so, and we do that when we're trying to find and exercise control in a place where we don't feel we have control, where we feel out of control. Out of control creates fear. Nobody wants to feel out of control. That's what creates fear. It's what creates addiction. It's what creates separation from other people and our desire to control and manipulate them, right? So that statement is icky. And I knew it right after I typed it because Spirit told me and showed me the error of my ways. Sorry, I lost my place. I have to figure out a way to attract them towards my frequency. But as I sit here, I know that that's not my job to do that. The how to bring them along is never my job. And when you can accept and surrender that Spirit's got this under control, you don't need to control anyone else ever. Okay. That is not your job. And maybe the exception to that might be children. I get that. They're learning and growing, right? But even then, there's a more divine way to do that, right? To guide as opposed to control, right? But anyway, let's talk on the adult level. You never ever, I don't care what it is, I don't care if we're talking about politics, religion, war, um, I don't care what we're talking about. You never need to control somebody else. That is not your job, okay? Um, the how is never my job, and certainly changing other people and controlling their behaviors or thoughts is also not my job. I need to just be the light in the moment and trust Spirit to do the rest. Sorry, I had a misspelling there. I thought I'd correct it now. I feel much more free and relieved now that I know I can go back to meditating. Like literally, I felt the weight lift when I did that. When I recognized that and acknowledged, like, all I have to do is sit in my knowing because I know. And I even typed here, now I can go back to meditating. That is the feeling of alignment. Amen. It just all lifted at once. It was like, ah, there you go. All you have to do is sit in your knowing. And that's the feeling of alignment. I'm learning about how to sit in these quiet moments and listen to my voice of misalignment so I can talk it down. You have to realize what is bringing that stress to you, that fear, that uncertainty to you. Figure out what it is. Figure out what the truth is or what you're believing about that's creating. If you feel that way, it's because you are misaligned to your true self. There's something you are believing that is not in alignment with who you really are. Okay. That's what that is telling you. That stress isn't because of anything anyone else is doing. That's what your ego will tell you. It's not you, it's them. No, it's like what my coworkers are doing. They're doing it is because they believe that that's what they need to do for us to be safe, what they need to do for a successful outcome. That's what they believe. But I know different. And I just need to trust the knowing and trust that Spirit will move as long as I can stay in my energetic frequency of this successful outcome. If I slip back and fall into their frequency, well, then we know what we're going to get. We're going to get tactical outcomes that aren't going to move the needle. Okay. So, but here's what was really cool. I'm just going to read it from here so you can hear what my thoughts were as it was happening. No, maybe I won't. Okay. Well, I wrote, I can see now that this is a big test for me. The stress I was feeling when I woke up this morning was because it was another day closer to the commercialization summit. I have been the primary manager of putting the event together, and I was starting to fall back into old patterns of feeling the pressure of success. But here's what really success is, and that's what I'm learning. Success is just being in alignment with my true self, with my authentic self, with my soul, and with spirit. That is success. Everything else falls into order when you do that. Okay. And so, um, this was a huge test uh, because it was a test. Can I get myself out of that, or am I going to sit in that like I used to? And I was able to work myself out of that, find the old beliefs that I now know are no longer true and let that go. But then I said, it's absolutely possible that I will feel this way again when I wake up tomorrow morning. I want you to hear that. Or when I'm in the middle of working on the project this week. Like just because I shed that feeling doesn't mean it won't creep back in. And here's why. Because we have deep, deep neural pathways that have been created that say, oh, when you get close to this big project being due, you should be feeling the stress. You should be feeling the heat. You should be feeling like a failure. You should be feeling like you're not enough. You should be feeling like you might have fucked something up. Excuse my language, right? Because you may have those neural pathways deeply, deeply, deeply ingrained. And so just because you peel back one layer and let it go, guess what? There's more layers. So, okay, we've peeled back the first layer of the onion. But now tomorrow morning when I get up and I'm another day closer, all of that might come back again. But now I know. Now I see the light. My third eye is open. I am no longer blind. Do you see where I'm going with this? Does this align to some scriptures you maybe have? I was blind, but now I see. I see the hell I was binding myself in by living in that kind of stress daily. And I can free myself of it because I was putting that stress on myself by my limiting beliefs. Okay. And so it'll be deeper and harder the next time because I'm at the next layer of the onion, right? So when I feel it again, it's going to be maybe even stronger. But I know this, I know the process now, okay? And you just got to keep doing it repeatedly. Repeat. If it's still worth it. You will break it and you will eventually be totally free of it. And spirit will know when they can stop testing you on that. They know when you have peeled all the layers and truly released it all. And then you will stop getting those challenges and then you'll be on to something else. Okay, so this is beautiful. It's so beautiful. So I know that it's going to happen again because these emotions come in layers, but now I know I can rise above it. That's my new truth. I know better. Okay. Now here's what's really cool. So as I finished literally typing that sentence, I finished that sentence, and all of a sudden I could hear a squirrel yelling. I call it barking because that's what it sounds like to me. Really loud. And it sounded like it was like right here, like right behind me, but I'm sitting basically up against my house. So I'm like, what the heck? Um, and and oddly enough, I never sit there and meditate. I did it because everything around was wet where I usually sit. And so I went out to my front. I usually meditate in the back. I went outside in the front and I was grounding off of my porch. So my house is right here behind me. And I'm like, where is this squirrel? And I look up and it's sitting perched on the edge of my roof, just I'm saying screaming. It was like squawking at me, barking at me. And I'm like, and I'm like, what are you like? Again, I knew spirit was using nature, using other creation to speak to me. So I'm like, okay, you're talking to me. I'm going to zone in. So I went into a meditative state, took my deep breath. I imagine in my heart space, my soul kind of emanating my aura and connecting with this with the squirrel's aura. And I said, "What message do you have for me?" And the message that I got, and I'm just going to read the words because I wrote it down as soon as they came to me, was, um, The message I got was that I have designed this summit on a strong foundation. So remember, the squirrel is perched on the roof of my house, on a house that will not be shaken, right? I've designed this summit on a strong foundation of alignment, joy, passion, and divine inspiration. And I have. This whole process has been very fun to create. It has been a co-creation with spirit. That's why I sit in a knowing, and I know. So it cannot fail as long as I stand firm on that foundation. And then as I was writing that last sentence, as I wrote, so it cannot fail as long as I stand firm on that foundation. Um, right in that second, this big loud boom happens, and I'm like, what the heck? And the squirrel had jumped into the tree next to my house. And this big black, I don't know if you know what a black walnut looks like, but they look like, actually, I took a picture of it. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that. It's this big, it looks like a green apple or a pear almost. Big black walnut fell, and my porch is covered. So this is all under a covered part of my porch. It was almost like it was thrown. I will say it this way: the universe threw that black walnut onto my porch to get my attention, and they were literally putting the exclamation point on that last statement that I made. Um, so, so I had literally wrote it, so it cannot fail as long as I stand firm on that foundation. And then boom, that happened. I look up, I see the squirrel, but here's the kicker. That tree that the squirrel was in was a maple tree. So you tell me how a black walnut that size, I mean, that squirrel must have had fantastic soccer dribbling skills to get that black walnut over my roof because it was on the other side of the roof, over the peak of my roof, onto the tree, I and then onto my porch. I don't, whatever. Like amazing. But it just shows you that when spirit's got something to say and a point to make, if you're tuned in, you will hear it loud and clear. And so for me, I literally wrote that with that boom, spirit was adding the exclamation point onto my last statement. Um, and so that I just wanted to share that with you. I don't know how long I've been talking. Let's close. Let's close with we're gonna close with the animal spirit oracle because God used that God used that um squirrel to talk to me. So thank you, Spirit, for try to hold this up here. Thank you, Spirit, for the message that you've given us, for the challenge you've given us of how to like wake up and start our day more intentionally, get in the right headspace. And listen, if you're in a really low vibrational negative headspace, like today, I was able to stop and start digging into why I was feeling the way I was feeling about the work situation and why I couldn't stop thinking about it, only because I knew that I could disconnect and separate myself from those feelings and kind of um I knew that I could evaluate those feelings from a neutral place. I could step out of it, evaluate, ooh, you're feeling stress about the success of this event. And I knew I could constructively evaluate it. Sometimes when you're in a lower vibrational state, though, usually you cannot objectively look at that situation um, in that vibrational state. You have to wait until you're at a higher vibration. The vibration of your problem is never the vibration of the solution. You've got to wait until you're in a moment of joy. That's why a lot of times those good ideas or those revelations come when you're doing weird things like playing a game or whatever, because you're in a higher vibration and that's where solutions live. So okay, so don't try to do that if you're really in a negative space at that time. Just acknowledge, maybe journal about how you're feeling in that moment, and then you can come back to it later when you are in a good headspace and oh, here we go. And when you are in a good headspace and get better perspective. And here I love this frog spirit, clear out the clutter. Okay, I love this. So here's the thing. There's the clutter are all we everything we do, everything we say, everything we think, every action we take is built on a foundation of some belief system. Okay, some BS belief system. It's not all BS, like some of it's good stuff. But it's time, Spirit's saying it's time to clear out the clutter that is clogging your mind and clogging your life on the daily. It's time to declutter your heart, declutter your mind, so that you can put things in their proper perspective, put things in their proper priority and proper order, okay, so that you can be more aligned to spirit. All right, so it's time. That's what they're saying. This is at 28, which breaks down to a 10. You are at the end of a cycle of working through some right? And you are ready to declutter. And I will say this, you might be noticing, this will be a good way of confirming whether spirits like that this is not whether, because I know spirits messages will be a good way of confirming spirits message for you. Have you been doing some physical decluttering? So a lot of times a lot of times our physical behaviors will mirror what's happening for us emotionally and spiritually. And so if you've been decluttering a room in your house, organizing your file cabinet, maybe you've been organizing photos, maybe you've been clearing up the clutter of your electronic files on your computer. Like if you've been doing or decluttering your garage, I don't know, if you've been doing some decluttering, that spirit confirming that you are in this kind of 10 phase of you are ready to declutter your mind, get rid of the stuff that is no longer useful for you. And some of these old belief systems are just no longer useful for you. So Spirit's saying it's time to figure out which ones those are and start letting some of that go. And you know what you're ready to let go of and what you're not. If letting go of a belief um, feels if you're too afraid, if it feels too painful, then you're not at that vibration yet, and that's okay. And I say that like all beliefs are meant to be let go of. It's just that most of us, myself included, are still living in belief systems that are not of the highest truth. Okay. I hate to say they're true or not true. They're not of the highest truth. And we can still learn and grow. This whole life, we will be learning and growing and shedding old beliefs. That's what we're here for. So anyway, I think I've been talking a long time. Thank you so much. I might pull one more. No, because I've been talking a long time. I'm going to leave it right there. I love you. Peace out, everyone.